all know the name Nikola Tesla, right? The brilliant genius inventor. But what if I told you there's another story? A way more dramatic, more mysterious version that you don't hear about in the textbooks. In this explainer, we're diving deep into that forbidden story of Tesla, based on our source material. And this story kicks off with a really powerful idea that Tesla unlocked a future that was basically stolen from us. It's a story about free energy for everyone, incredible inventions that were deliberately buried, and a vision for the world that was actively suppressed. It really sets the stage for a story of what could have been. Okay, so what is this second story? Well, it paints Tesla not just as some inventor, but as a true visionary whose greatest creations were deliberately erased by powerful people who were terrified of his genius. We're talking a tale of betrayal, secret superweapons, and a hidden battle for the future of energy itself. So, to really get who this man was, the source material says we have to go right back to the beginning, to a birth story that sounds like something straight out of a legend. The story goes like this. Picture it. He's born right at the stroke of midnight, and outside, a massive lightning storm is just raging. The midwife apparently thought this was a terrible omen, a bad sign. But his mom, she looks at the midwife and says, no. He is a child of lightning. This one anecdote frames his entire life as if he was destined to command the very forces he was born into. And his early life was just one wild thing after another. He almost died from cholera, and that's the only reason his dad finally agreed to let him study engineering instead of becoming a priest. Then he gets to university, and he's so brilliant, solving these crazy complex problems entirely in his head, that his professors actually accuse him of cheating. And in 1882, this incredible mind goes to work for the one man who would become his greatest enemy, Thomas Edison. And this, right here, is where the main conflict of Tesla's life really kicks off. We're not just talking about a little professional rivalry here. The source material presents this as a full-blown war, a series of nasty betrayals that would come to define his whole career. So first, when he's in Paris, the company promises him this huge bonus for fixing a critical issue. He does it, of course. But do they pay him? Nope. Then he moves to the US to work directly for Edison. And Edison dangles this massive carrot, $50,000, an insane amount of money back then, to redesign his inefficient DC motors. Tesla works like a maniac for months and pulls it off. And when he asks for the money, Edison just laughs in his face and says, Tesla, you don't understand our American humor. Can you imagine? That was the last straw. But look, this wasn't just about the money. This was about two completely different visions for the world. Edison's direct current was clunky and super inefficient. You basically needed a new power station on every other block. On the other hand, you have Tesla's alternating current. It was just smarter. A single generator could power a whole city. It was a complete game changer, and Edison knew it threatened his entire empire. So what does Edison do? According to our source, he goes to war. A dirty war. He funds this whole media smear campaign, trying to scare everyone into thinking AC would kill them. He buries Tesla in bogus lawsuits just to bleed him dry of money. And the documentary even alleges that when Tesla's lab mysteriously burned to the ground, guess who was there to sift through the ashes and claim the ideas as his own? Yeah? Edison. But here's the thing. Tesla won the war of currents. He proved AC was better. And with that huge win under his belt, he set his sights on something even bigger, something that went way beyond just powering cities. He started dreaming of a world with free, wireless energy for every single person on the planet. And his big I told you so moment was at the Chicago World's Fair. It was a total spectacle. He and his partner, George Westinghouse, used alternating current to illuminate the entire fair. We're talking more light bulbs in one place than existed in the whole city of Chicago at the time. He showed the world his system wasn't just good, it was the future. And this is where you really see the showman, the magician in him. To prove AC was safe, he would get on stage and let 1,000,000 volts of electricity surge right through his own body. 1,000,000! And he'd just be standing there, totally fine, holding light bulbs that would magically light up in his hands. People didn't see an inventor, they saw a wizard. And then, disaster strikes. A mysterious fire just guts his lab. Everything. Years of work just gone up in smoke. Everyone thought, well, that's it for Tesla. But they didn't know the man. He just sits down and recreates almost all of his most important inventions purely from his photographic memory in just 6 months. Unbelievable. And all of this was just a stepping stone to his real, ultimate goal. In his lab in Colorado Springs, he wasn't just messing with power lines. He said he was building a system for global wireless power and communication. Think about that. He was basically dreaming up the internet and a wireless world grid back in the 1890s. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, so now the story takes a sharp turn. We're getting into the really wild stuff now. The inventions that were so ahead of their time, so radical that, according to the source, the powers that be had to shut them down. His masterpiece was supposed to be the Wardenclyffe Tower. This thing was designed to beam free electricity wirelessly across the entire globe. But his main financial backer, the mega banker J.P. Morgan, suddenly pulls the plug. Why? Well, the story claims Morgan had a terrifying realization. How do you put an electric meter on energy that's free and floating through the air? You can't. Tesla's dream would have completely destroyed the business model of the energy industry. And this is where the documentary starts connecting the dots between Tesla experiments and some of history's biggest unsolved mysteries. So, in 1898, he's testing this earthquake machine, and his whole lab in Manhattan starts shaking. On the very same day, a small earthquake is reported nearby. Then, flash forward 10 years. He's doing a massive wireless energy experiment. At that exact time, halfway across the world in Siberia, a mysterious colossal explosion flattens over 1,000 square miles of forest. We now call it the Tunguska event. So, a coincidence? The source material says, no way. It flat out claims that Tesla caused the Tunguska explosion with his experiment, and that the power he unleashed was so immense, so terrifying, that he was forced into secrecy, and the whole giant meteor story was just a cover-up. A cover-up that lasted for more than 50 years. And the list of other suppressed inventions is just staggering. A so-called peace ray, which was really a particle beam weapon that could take out thousands of planes from hundreds of miles away. The very first drone, a remote-controlled boat he demonstrated in 1898. An electric car motor that ran without needing any fuel. And of course, radio itself. Marconi got the Nobel Prize using 17 of Tesla's own patents. So when you put it all together, what you have is this incredible alternative version of history. It's the story you definitely didn't learn in school. A story of a man who didn't just invent the 20th century. He may have already invented a 21st century that we were never allowed to have. And that really brings us to the final, chilling question that this whole forbidden story leaves us with. If even part of this is true, what else is out there? What other world-changing inventions are still buried in some classified file cabinet? It really makes you wonder, what would our world look like today if that child of lightning had been allowed to finish what he started?